Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate your comments earlier, and I appreciate Senator Coons, who was here earlier, who's been involved in the design of this legislation. This is the same bill basically that we had before the committee last year, so in a sense it's old business. We have made some changes. Frankly, in the fiscal climate we've made it more fiscally prudent. We have dropped the language that expanded the DOE's loan guarantee program and replaced it with a state-based financing mechanism that I think will work better, and a number of our colleagues that expressed concerns about the loan guarantee program. But this is very similar to the legislation that came through committee last year, 18-3, and I want to thank the Energy Department and Dr. Hogan in particular for their help on this. They've given us expertise and advice all the way through. Senator Coons is now here. Sorry I didn't see you. And this has enabled us, I think, to come up with, again, some refinements to the legislation that make it even more effective. A couple of questions I would have for Dr. Hogan briefly. One is with regard to the Advanced Manufacturing Office, or AMO, as I affectionately call it. This is something that, as you know, we are focused on as a way to help the manufacturing sector in particular get some of the technology they need to be able to be more energy efficient, which is important for our competitiveness and the economy. There are other offices at DOE that focus more on the science side and focus more on some of the production even of technologies like solar energy, but we want to be sure that AMO has this special focus on manufacturing. So I guess I would just ask you if you could talk a little about the role of the Advanced Manufacturing Office. Why is it important? Why does the federal government play a role here? And if you could explain a little about what the office does now and maybe what you think it should do.
Great. So as you have noted, we have changed the name of our program that was focused on the industrial sector from the Industrial Technologies Program to the Advanced Manufacturing Office. And I think what you should hear in those words is our intense focus on manufacturing and our interest in being able to bring forth new solutions that make sense for all of industry, but as we take sort of a more life cycle approach, looking at sort of where we use energy in our economy and look for the big steps that we can make to improve sort of energy intensity across our economy. So what we're looking for are opportunities where we can get 10, 20, 30, but really 50% savings in our processes, in our materials, and to work with all of the industries where we have those opportunities for such changes. So that includes energy-intensive industries as well as sort of advanced manufacturing techniques that we think are critical to sort of the competitiveness of our economy going forward.
Thank you very much. And you noticed Senator Wyden, Chairman Wyden earlier mentioned the fact that there are over 200 organizations and companies that have supported this legislation, and many of those over 200 are industrial companies, manufacturers who are interested in the energy efficiency best practices and, again, the deployment of technology to help them that can come out of this. So they're very, very excited about having this Advanced Manufacturing Office work closely with them as partners, and I think that's the goal of this legislation, certainly, is to engage them as stakeholders directly so that they're getting what they need out of this to become more competitive and also to save energy. So it has both, as you say, earlier you called energy efficiency a cornerstone of national energy policies, and I think that's certainly correct. The many of us in this committee who believe we ought to be producing more energy, including hydro, but also we ought to be using less and being more efficient, and that's certainly consistent. You also said in your statement that the administration supports the objectives of the legislation, but that you're still looking at the bill. We appreciate, again, you're working with us to come up with an even better bill this year. And you also noted several times in your testimony that there's a lot more opportunity to find energy savings through efficiency. And we certainly agree with that, and that's one reason we have focused this legislation on some of those areas. You mentioned that buildings, for instance, is where we use 40% of our energy. One of the focuses this year is on the building side, including, as I noted earlier, kickstarting this private sector investment in building efficiency, but also more transparency in the national building codes. We've worked with the home builders and others on that transparency. We also are focused on training that next generation of workers, as you talked about, through these university-based building training and research assessment centers. And then manufacturing we talked about earlier, which I think we've got some really exciting opportunities there, including the Supply Star program that Senator Murkowski talked to you about. And then finally the federal government, where we have the largest user of energy in the world, as far as we can tell, and sometimes it's used efficiently, sometimes not. There's lots of, as you indicated, opportunity there, including getting these companies that perform service contracts in efficiency and are paid over time through the savings to be engaged directly in some of the objectives of the legislation, including installing natural gas vehicle charging infrastructures and electric vehicle infrastructure. So I think there's a lot of opportunity here, as you said, and we appreciate your support already, and again, appreciate the senators, including Senator Coons and Senator Wyden and Senator Murkowski and others who have contributed to the design of the legislation this year. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.